If your erections have grown weaker, if your energy feels like it's slipping away with every passing month, and if you've started to believe that age alone has stolen your manhood, then let me stop you right there. This isn't the full story. In fact, for so many men past 60, what you're experiencing is not inevitable decline, it's a simple deficiency. A gap that hides in plain sight. And when you close it, the change can be faster, stronger, and far more life-giving than you ever thought possible. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a men's health specialist who has spent more than 3 decades walking alongside husbands, fathers, grandfathers, men who once thought their best years were behind them. I've seen despair give way to hope. I've seen tired eyes light up again, and I've watched men rediscover the intimacy, the confidence, and the strength they feared had vanished forever. Here's the paradox most doctors never tell you. You don't lack discipline, you don't lack desire. What you lack is circulation, stamina, and hormonal balance. And all three are deeply connected to a trio of essential vitamins almost every man over 60 is quietly running low on. That deficiency creates the gap between what you feel and what you still want. It breeds frustration, but also curiosity. Because once you finally understand what's happening inside your body, the solution becomes clear. And that solution is powerful. With the right forms of vitamin D, vitamin B12, and vitamin E, you can open your blood vessels, fuel your energy, and protect the testosterone that defines your vitality as a man. The result is not some empty promise. It's a body that performs with strength, a mind that feels sharp, and a spirit that wakes up eager to live again. But there's a warning you need to hear because I've seen too many men stumble. In just a few minutes, I'll reveal the single most dangerous mistake older men make when they begin these supplements. A mistake that silently robs them of results. And I'll show you exactly how to avoid it so you can begin reclaiming your vitality tonight. Before we go deeper, I want you to do 3 simple things. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message crafted specifically for men in your stage of life. Second, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. If this resonates, type 1 and tell me what part of your health you most want to restore. If it doesn't speak to you, type 0 and tell me what's missing. Your feedback shapes what I share here. And third, this one matters more than you think. Tap the like button right now. Why? Because when you do, you're sending a signal not just to YouTube but to yourself that you're choosing life over decline. And here's my wish for you as you press that button. May your mornings feel lighter, your stride feel stronger, and your evenings bring the kind of closeness you thought belonged to yesterday. Those aren't empty words, they are blessings I've seen fulfilled in men who dared to take that first step. Now let's dive in. The first overlooked key to restoring your vitality is something your body once produced with ease whenever you stepped outside. But after 60, it begins to fall sharply, dragging down your energy, your circulation, and yes, even your erections. I'm talking about the sunshine spark plug itself, vitamin D. When I think back on the men I've worked with over the years, one conversation with Harold still lingers in my mind. Harold was 66, a retired high school teacher who had given decades of his life to the classroom, shaping young minds with patience and discipline. Yet when he sat across from me one quiet afternoon, there was no lecture in his voice, only a deep and weary confession. "Doctor," he said softly, "I love my wife. I still want to be close to her. But when the moment comes, my body doesn't answer. It feels as if something is missing, like a part of me just shut off." His eyes told me more than his words. The frustration, the quiet shame, the heaviness of believing age had stolen his manhood, it all sat there in the silence between us. Harold believed, as so many men do, that this decline was inevitable. But what he didn't know was that the missing piece was far simpler than he ever imagined. He was running low on vitamin D. We often call it the sunshine vitamin, but for men beyond 60, vitamin D is far more than just a nutrient. It's the spark that flips the switch in your blood vessels, the signal that allows them to open wide and deliver oxygen-rich blood where you need it most. Without it, nitric oxide production plummets, circulation slows, and intimacy becomes more difficult than it should be. The shocking truth: more than 40% of older adults are deficient in vitamin D. Some estimates place that number even higher for men living in northern states or spending most of their days indoors. You could eat reasonably well, you could walk every morning, you could even feel healthy by most measures, and still find yourself drained of this vital fuel. The aging body simply doesn't produce or absorb vitamin D the way it once did. What follows is a cascade: energy dips. Stamina fades, mood darkens, and erections weaken. Harold's story is a mirror for thousands of men. They sit across from me believing something profound has been lost, when in reality what's missing is as basic as sunlight. That hidden deficiency quietly erodes not only circulation but also confidence, creating a vicious cycle that leaves men detached from the very closeness they long for. But here's the hope, and it's powerful. Just 15 to 20 minutes of morning sunlight, especially before 10 o'clock, can kickstart your body's natural vitamin D production. It doesn't require marathons or extreme regimens. It requires standing in the light you once took for granted. When sunlight alone isn't enough, foods can carry you further. Salmon and tuna, rich and hearty; fortified dairy, steady and reliable; even egg yolks, small but potent. And when diet and sunlight still fall short, as they often do for men past 60, a high-quality vitamin D3 supplement can be the bridge between fatigue and vitality. Not D2, the cheaper cousin that delivers little impact, but D3, the form your body actually recognizes and uses. I've witnessed the change. Men who once struggled to finish a slow walk around the block now laugh with their friends on the golf course. Husbands who thought their days of closeness were behind them rediscover a tenderness and connection with their wives that feels brand new. Grandfathers once too tired to keep up with their grandchildren now find themselves running, playing, and savoring moments they feared would slip away forever. I still remember Harold returning to my office months later. The weariness in his eyes had been replaced with a spark, the same spark I'd seen in countless men who gave their bodies back what they were starving for. "Doc," he said, "it's like someone turned the lights back on." That is the quiet, steady power of vitamin D. Alone, it can bring remarkable change. It doesn't promise to turn you into a 20-year-old again, but it can restore something far more important: the ability to live with presence, energy, and connection. Yet even as circulation improves, there's another question we must face. What good is open blood flow if the body lacks the fuel to keep it going? How can you sustain that spark if your cells themselves are running empty? That's where the second essential vitamin steps in, and for many men, it explains years of exhaustion. Let's talk about the energy generator, vitamin B12. There's a certain kind of exhaustion I often hear about from men in their 60s and 70s. It isn't the tiredness of a hard day's work or the pleasant fatigue that comes after mowing the lawn or fixing a fence. No, this is a heaviness that clings even after rest, a slow drag on the body that no amount of coffee can lift. Edward, 68, knew that feeling too well. A retired railroad engineer, he had spent decades keeping America's trains moving on schedule. His hands were steady, his mind sharp, his discipline unmatched. But when I met him, he looked like a man whose spark had dimmed. "Doc," he told me, his voice low, "I feel like my tank's been running on empty for years. I wake up tired, I go to bed tired, and when it comes to intimacy, there's nothing left in the engine." That empty tank is more than just a metaphor. For men beyond 60, one of the most overlooked causes of fatigue, mood swings, and declining intimacy is a simple yet devastating deficiency: vitamin B12. B12 isn't some minor nutrient. It's the very fuel your body needs to create red blood cells to carry oxygen, to keep your nerves firing cleanly, and to build the DNA that keeps every cell alive. Without it, your body slows like a train losing steam, the engine sputtering though the track is still ahead. And here's the cruel twist: as we age, our stomachs produce less acid, which means the B12 in food doesn't break free the way it once did. Even if you eat well, steak, eggs, fish, the vitamin may pass right through without ever being absorbed. Many older men end up running dangerously low without ever knowing it. The signs creep in quietly: fatigue that doesn't fade, memory lapses that make you wonder if your mind is slipping, tingling in the hands or feet, even depression. A gray cloud that lingers no matter how many bright days come. And beneath it all, the silent drain on energy and circulation that weakens erections and dulls desire. When Edward's blood work came back, his B12 levels were so low it was no wonder he felt like a shell of himself. He wasn't broken as he feared, he was starving at the cellular level. The turnaround, once we addressed it, was remarkable. Through a combination of diet and supplementation, Edward began to reclaim what he thought was gone for good. His meals became rich with salmon, trout, and sardines, ocean foods dense with natural B12. He added fortified cereals at breakfast and a couple of boiled eggs in the afternoon. But diet alone wasn't enough, so we introduced a high-quality B12 supplement, methylcobalamin, the form most easily absorbed. For some men, especially those with more severe deficiencies, B12 injections provide the fastest results. Within weeks, Edward reported that the fog had lifted. He laughed again with his grandchildren. His energy returned not in sudden bursts but in steady waves, a consistent strength that carried him through the day. And in the privacy of his marriage, he discovered something else. His body responded again with vigor, a confidence he hadn't felt in a decade. I often tell men that B12 is like adding fire back to the coals. You don't need a roaring blaze to live fully, but you do need enough flame to keep the engine running, the heart beating strong, the blood flowing freely. Without it, no matter how open your circulation may be, there's simply no power behind the movement. And here's what I want you to remember. This is not about turning back the clock. It's about restoring what was always meant to be yours, the vitality to stand tall, to think clearly, to love deeply, and to feel present in your own skin. Edward's story is not unusual. I've seen men who believed their decline was permanent find themselves alive again, not because of a miracle drug, but because their bodies were given what they had silently been missing for years. But energy alone is not enough. A man may feel stronger, yet if his body lacks the foundation for resilience, even the smallest stress can unravel his progress. That's where the third key vitamin comes in, one that acts as the great protector, shielding your cells and your manhood from the wear and tear of time. Let's turn to vitamin E and why it may be the unsung guardian of male vitality. George was 70 years old when I met him, a man with a handshake still firm from his years in the Navy. His posture was proud, his voice steady, but beneath that strength lay a private worry. "Doc," he admitted one afternoon, "I'm doing all right in most parts of life. I keep busy, I eat decent. But when it comes to intimacy with my wife, I feel like my body's forgotten how to cooperate. It's not just about desire, it's like the machine has rusted." That phrase, "the machine has rusted," stuck with me. Because what George was describing wasn't just poor circulation or low energy. It was oxidative stress, the slow, invisible corrosion that eats away at blood vessels, nerves, and tissues as we age. And that's where vitamin E enters the story, not as a spark plug or a fuel tank, but as the great protector, the shield that keeps the machinery from breaking down too soon. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant. Think of it as a silent guardian patrolling your body to neutralize free radicals, the unstable molecules that accelerate aging. Without enough protection, these free radicals damage the lining of blood vessels, making them stiff and less responsive. The result? weaker circulation, reduced sensitivity, and a slow erosion of intimacy. Most men don't realize that vitamin E plays a direct role in erectile health. By protecting the endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels, it ensures nitric oxide can be released smoothly, allowing vessels to relax and blood to flow freely. Without that protection, even strong levels of vitamin D or B12 can't fully deliver. George's diet, like many older men, leaned heavily on processed foods. Toasted white bread, fried potatoes, quick snacks between meals. Foods stripped of natural vitamin E. What his body needed were almonds, sunflower seeds, hazelnuts, spinach, and avocado. But even when he tried to adjust, it wasn't enough. Age had reduced his ability to absorb and utilize the vitamin efficiently. So we introduced a high-quality vitamin E supplement, natural D-alpha tocopherol combined with tocotrienols, the complete spectrum. Within months, the change was striking. His circulation improved, his recovery after exercise sped up. And that rusted machine he had spoken of began to hum again. Not like it did at 20, but enough for him and his wife to rediscover closeness without struggle. This is where some men lean back and say, "Come on, doc, are you telling me a vitamin can really change the bedroom?" And I smile because I hear it often. There are comments on the previous video as follows. Comment 1. Sounds nice, but isn't this just another supplement pitch? I've been burned before. That is the question of many concerned people. I get it, you've seen the gimmicks. But vitamin E isn't a gimmick. It's been studied for decades with clear evidence showing its antioxidant role in vascular health. The Navy didn't run on fairy dust, and neither does your body. Without protection, the engine corrodes. This isn't about hype. It's about giving your cells what time has quietly stolen. Comment 2. Doc, I've heard vitamin E is dangerous in high doses. Should I be worried? That's a fair question. The danger isn't vitamin E itself, but the careless misuse of it. High, synthetic doses taken blindly can indeed cause harm. But when you choose natural, balanced forms and stick to recommended levels, it becomes a shield. Not a sword. Moderation and quality, that's the Navy discipline George lived by, and it works here too. The truth is simple. Vitamin E won't turn you into someone you're not, but it can protect what's already yours, your circulation, your vitality, your ability to connect. And sometimes that protection is all a man needs to stand tall again. George's story is proof. He came in feeling like his body was rusting away. He walked out months later with a spark in his step and a softness in his smile, ready to face his days with confidence. But protection, as vital as it is, only completes part of the picture. To truly restore what's been lost, the body must also find harmony, where protection, fuel, and spark all move together like a well-conducted orchestra. That's where the next vitamin comes in, and it ties the whole system into balance. Let's talk about vitamin C and why it might be the cornerstone you've overlooked. Frank was 72, a retired carpenter whose hands still carried the rough strength of decades shaping wood. When he came to see me, he wasn't broken, at least not in the way some men imagine themselves to be. He could still move around well, still enjoy long afternoons on his porch, but there was a different struggle, one that nagged at him in quiet moments. "Doc," he said with a half smile, "I feel like I've got parts that still work, but the timing is all off. I'll get a little energy, then it's gone. My wife and I will try to be close, but my body doesn't follow through. It's like I can start the fire, but I can't keep it burning." That phrase, "can't keep it burning," captures the heart of why vitamin C matters. You see, if vitamin D is the spark and vitamin B12 is the fuel, then vitamin C is the balancer, the quiet stabilizer that keeps everything in rhythm. Without it, the system falls into chaos. Blood vessels weaken, stress hormones run wild, and nitric oxide breaks down before it can do its work. Most people think of vitamin C only as the cold and flu nutrient, the thing your mother handed you in orange juice. But its real role goes deeper. It strengthens collagen, the connective tissue that holds blood vessels flexible and resilient. It neutralizes free radicals, much like vitamin E, but it also regenerates vitamin E after it's been used. And perhaps most importantly for a man's vitality, vitamin C stabilizes nitric oxide, ensuring those precious signals don't fade before they reach their target. When Frank's labs came back, his vitamin C was at the lower end of normal. Not deficient, but not enough to keep up with the demands of an aging body. He wasn't sick, but he wasn't thriving either, and that in-between state is where many men lose their confidence. I remember suggesting simple changes: citrus fruit in the morning, bell peppers with lunch, broccoli or Brussels sprouts at dinner. We added strawberries, kiwi, and even a bit of pineapple on occasion. These weren't drastic shifts. They were small additions that turned meals into medicine. But Frank, like many older men, still needed more. So we introduced a moderate vitamin C supplement, buffered, gentle on the stomach, and paired with bioflavonoids for absorption. Within weeks, his energy smoothed out. No more sudden bursts followed by crashes. His mood lifted not with fireworks, but with a steady sense of calm. And intimacy, that balancing act, began to return. His erections became more reliable, his recovery faster, his connection with his wife less of a gamble and more of a rhythm. Now I want to pause here, because if this were a live room, I can almost hear some of you leaning in. One of you might say, "Doc, are you really telling me a glass of orange juice can change my marriage?" And I'd laugh with you. No, orange juice alone won't solve years of decline. But restoring balance at the cellular level, yes, that can change everything. Another might add, "I've taken vitamin C for years and didn't feel a thing." And that's fair, because it isn't about a single nutrient in isolation. It's about harmony. D, B12, E, and now C, they work together. Miss one and the orchestra plays out of tune, and that's why I'm telling you this today, not as some salesman, but as a physician who has seen men like Frank move from discouragement to renewal. So let me ask you directly, since we're in this together. Do you believe your body is out of balance? Do you feel that stop-and-go rhythm Frank described? If you do, I'd love for you to leave a comment, because chances are you're not alone. In fact, your story might help another man who's been quietly wrestling with the same question. And while you're here, don't just listen, be part of this conversation. Men in their 60s and 70s often think they are invisible. Prove to yourself you're not. Share your thoughts below. Frank found his balance again, not through anything exotic, but through restoring what time had drained. And for him, that balance brought peace, peace in his body, peace in his marriage. But balance, as powerful as it is, still needs one final element: the mineral that keeps blood pressure steady, calms the heart, and ensures the system doesn't seize up under strain. That's the next piece of the puzzle, and without it, everything else risks falling apart. Let's turn to magnesium, the quiet regulator that often hides in plain sight. Samuel was 65 when he came to see me, a man who had spent most of his life behind the wheel of 18-wheelers. Long stretches of highway, coffee and paper cups, rest stops that all blurred together, that was his rhythm for decades. He was tough, weathered, steady. But when he settled into the chair across from me, I could see the fatigue that came from more than just the road. "Doc," he said, leaning forward, "I can push through most things. I've worked sick. I've worked tired, but lately I feel like my body's locked up. My blood pressure's climbing, my sleep is garbage, and when I try to be close with my wife, it feels like my body just won't cooperate. It's like the brakes are stuck." That phrase, "the brakes are stuck," is exactly what magnesium explains. You see, magnesium is the great regulator. It relaxes blood vessels, calms the nervous system, and balances the electrical signals that tell muscles, including the heart and the smooth muscle in blood vessels, how to behave. Without it, tension builds, blood pressure rises, stress hormones spike, and when those brakes stay on too long, intimacy falters. Most men don't realize they are deficient. In fact, studies suggest up to 70% of adults don't get enough magnesium. Our modern diet has stripped it away: refined grains, processed snacks. Even the soil our vegetables grow in is depleted. By the time a man reaches 65, his body may be running at half power without him ever knowing why. Samuel's diet on the road had been heavy on fast food and light on vegetables. Burgers, fries, coffee, repeat. His magnesium levels were predictably low. What he thought was just old age was, in truth, his body crying out for balance. When we rebuilt his diet, we added leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, and black beans. We swapped out a couple of those late-night fast food runs for grilled salmon and steamed vegetables. And yes, we included a quality magnesium glycinate supplement, gentle on the stomach and well absorbed. Within weeks, Samuel's blood pressure began to level out. His sleep, once broken into restless stretches, deepened. He described it to me like this: "Doc, I didn't know how tired I was until I finally woke up rested." And intimacy. With the brakes finally off, his body responded with a freedom he hadn't felt in years. Now, let me turn this to you, the men listening right now. Do you feel your body's brakes are on? Do you wake up tense, go to bed tense, and find yourself unable to relax even in moments that should bring joy? If that rings true, magnesium might be the missing link. And here's the part where I give you a nudge. If you've made it this far into the podcast, that tells me something: you care about your health and you're serious about change. So why not subscribe? Think of it this way: you don't drive cross-country without a GPS, and you don't want to navigate your health journey without a guide. Hit that button. It costs nothing, but it might keep you from taking a wrong turn. I can almost hear some of you chuckle: "Doc, are you really comparing my manhood to a highway map?" Yes, I am, because both require direction, both demand fuel, and both can leave you stranded if you ignore the signs. Samuel's story is a reminder that regulation is not about control, it's about freedom. When the body is balanced, when stress hormones don't rule, when blood pressure eases and sleep restores, everything else falls into place. But there's still one final piece to address: the mineral that anchors bones, fortifies strength, and ensures the body's foundation doesn't crumble beneath it all. Without it, the spark, the fuel, the protector, the balancer, and the regulator can't hold. That mineral is zinc, and for men beyond 60, it may be the keystone of lasting vitality. Soybeans vs. eggs: the surprising truth. Howard was 69 when he walked into my office. He carried himself like a man who had spent years teaching discipline, teamwork, and grit to young players on the baseball field. He was a retired coach, broad-shouldered but slowed by time. When he sat down across from me, he didn't talk about home runs or trophies. He leaned in and said quietly, "Doc, I feel like my strength is slipping away. Not just in the gym, not just on the field of life, but in the bedroom too. My wife is patient, but I can see the questions in her eyes. Am I running out of steam for good?" That question cuts to the heart of what zinc means for men. Zinc is not glamorous. It doesn't get the spotlight like vitamin D or B12, but it is the foundation, the mineral that anchors testosterone production, immune strength, wound healing, and even fertility. Without enough zinc, a man's engine doesn't just sputter, it stalls. Here's the surprising part: most men believe they are getting plenty of zinc. After all, they eat meat, maybe eggs, maybe the occasional beans or seeds. But the truth is, not all zinc is created equal. In fact, the form matters more than most realize. That's where the story of soybeans and eggs comes in. You see, soy contains compounds called phytates. Phytates bind to zinc in the digestive tract and block absorption. And it doesn't matter how much zinc is in the soybean if your body can't use it. That's why diets heavy in soy can leave men unknowingly deficient, even if the numbers on paper look good. Eggs, on the other hand, deliver zinc in a bioavailable form. Your body can absorb it, use it, and build with it. Howard had spent his retirement trying to eat healthier. He swapped red meat for more soy products, thinking it was the safer, cleaner option. He loaded up on tofu, soy milk, and veggie substitutes. On the surface, it looked virtuous. But his testosterone began to sink, his stamina faded, and his confidence suffered. When we checked his labs, the answer was clear: his zinc levels were running dangerously low. When I explained the soybean paradox, Howard chuckled, shaking his head. So you're telling me my so-called healthy diet was robbing me of my manhood? In part, yes. His intention was good, but the execution left his foundation crumbling. We rebuilt that foundation with zinc-rich foods his body could actually use: lean beef, oysters, eggs, pumpkin seeds, and chickpeas. And for added support, we included a high-quality zinc supplement, zinc picolinate, a form easily absorbed by the body. Within months, Howard noticed something remarkable. His energy lifted, his workouts felt sharper, his sleep deepened, and when he looked at his wife, the spark in his eyes told the story better than words ever could. Now, I know some of you listening are thinking, Doc, are you saying soy is poison? Not at all. Soy has its place. It can be part of a balanced diet. But for men over 60, relying on it as a main protein source is like building a house on sand. Without zinc-rich foundations, the walls eventually give way. Eggs, on the other hand, are nature's quiet powerhouse, affordable, accessible, and packed with nutrients that men's bodies actually use. So let me ask you directly, how many eggs are in your weekly routine? How often do you rely on processed soy thinking it's the healthy option? And what if the very foods you thought were helping were silently draining the strength you need most? This is why I call zinc the foundation. Without it, vitamin D can't spark circulation, B12 can't fuel energy, magnesium can't regulate, and vitamin E can't protect. They're all essential, but zinc is the ground they stand on. Howard's story is proof. He didn't regain his youth, he regained his footing. He rebuilt the base. And from that base came confidence, intimacy, and the freedom to live on his own terms. But zinc isn't the last piece of the puzzle. Because what truly transforms theory into reality is not just knowing what to take, but weaving it into your daily life in ways that stick. That's where the conversation turns practical and personal. Frank was 66, a retired Navy man whose handshake still carried the grip of someone who had hauled ropes on deck under the burning sun. His discipline was legendary. He woke before dawn, kept his kitchen spotless, and logged every calorie like it was an order from command. But when it came to soy, Frank was hesitant. "Doc," he said, his voice gravelly but steady, "I hear soy is good, I hear soy is bad. I'm too old for this guessing game. I want something simple. Something that doesn't feel like I'm flipping my whole life upside down." That's exactly the point. Eating soy doesn't have to be a crusade. You don't need to toss out your fridge or live on tofu stir-fries. The truth is, for men over 60, small, thoughtful touches of soy can offer benefits without turning your diet into an experiment. And I want to show you what that looks like in real life. Let's start with breakfast. Maybe you're used to eggs and toast. That doesn't have to change. But what if twice a week you swapped regular milk in your coffee for soy milk? That single swap adds plant protein without you even noticing. Or if you're the kind who enjoys oatmeal, sprinkle in a tablespoon of roasted soy nuts. You won't feel like you're eating soy, you'll just notice a deeper crunch, a fuller flavor. Frank raised an eyebrow when I suggested that. "Soy nuts, you mean those little roasted things? Do they even taste good?" I smiled. "Try them once during a ball game, you'll find out." He came back a month later and laughed. "Turns out I can't stop snacking on them. Better than chips, Doc. That's the secret. Soy doesn't need to replace what you love. It slips in quietly, enhances, supports, and then steps back." Now, some of you listening might be skeptical. Maybe you grew up in a small town where soy was cattle feed, not people food. Maybe you've been told that soy messes with hormones. And I get it. That's why this isn't about making soy the star. It's about letting soy play a supporting role, a cameo, not a takeover. Think about it. Instead of eating a heavy steak 5 nights a week, what if one of those nights you tried a stir-fry with chicken and a handful of edamame? Or instead of loading up your salad with bacon bits, sprinkle on some soy crumbles. The flavor still satisfies, but your body thanks you with better circulation, better heart health, and a little more balance. Frank told me something that stuck. Doc, what I needed was not a diet, I needed options. If it feels like punishment, I won't do it, but if it feels like choice, I'll try anything once. That's the spirit I want you to carry. And here's where I'd love to hear from you. When you picture yourself adding soy, what feels realistic? Is it a splash of soy milk in your morning coffee, a bag of soy nuts next to the TV remote, or maybe you're the adventurous type ready to try tofu with garlic and pepper on a Friday night? Drop it in the comments. Tell me which one feels doable. You'd be surprised how many other men are wondering the same thing, and your answer might give them the push they need. Because at the end of the day, it's not about soy, it's about you, about having choices that don't feel like chores, about giving your body the quiet allies it needs without giving up the foods that have been with you for decades. Frank is proof. He didn't overhaul his life. He just made small, strategic moves. A splash of soy milk here, a handful of roasted soy nuts there. And his energy more stable, his cholesterol more balanced, his confidence restored. So before we move forward, let me ask you again, what's the one way you'd be willing to let soy sneak into your routine, not forever, just this week? Write it down, share it below, and see how it feels. Because the next step isn't just about eating soy, it's about making sure your digestion doesn't fight back. And trust me, a lot of men hit that wall. But there's a way through it, and that's exactly where we're headed. Robert was 72 when he sat across from me, his calloused hands resting on the edge of the chair. Decades on the road as a trucker had built him tough, but now his concerns weren't about gears or highways, they were about digestion. Doc, he admitted, his voice low, I tried adding beans and soy like you said, but the gas nearly drove me and my wife out of the house. I don't want to feel miserable every time I try to eat better. Is this just how it's going to be at my age? That question isn't just Robert's, it belongs to countless men who try to shift toward healthier foods in their 60s and 70s. The digestive tract, like the rest of the body, changes with age. Enzymes slow down, gut bacteria shift, and foods that once felt harmless can now stir up bloating, discomfort, or embarrassment. But here's the good news. There are practical steps, simple adjustments, that can make the difference between misery and ease. Let me break it down, and along the way, I'll answer a few of the questions I hear most often from men like you. Question 1, Doc, should I just avoid beans and soy altogether if they give me gas? No, not necessarily. The problem isn't the food itself, but how your body is processing it. Beans, lentils, and soy contain complex carbs called oligosaccharides, which your gut bacteria ferment. That fermentation is what produces gas. Instead of cutting them out completely, start small. A few spoonfuls of beans in a salad instead of a full bowl of chili. Over time, your gut adapts and tolerance improves. Question 2, what about soaking beans? Does that really help? Yes, it does. Traditional kitchens had it right. Soaking beans overnight, then rinsing them before cooking, washes away much of the compounds that trigger gas. Pressure cooking also helps break them down further. It's not a gimmick, it's a simple, old-fashioned method that still works today. Question 3, I heard probiotics might help. Is that true or just hype? It's true and not just hype. A healthy gut microbiome makes digestion smoother. Probiotic foods like yogurt, kefir, and sauerkraut help introduce friendly bacteria that can handle those complex carbs more gracefully. For some men, a probiotic supplement tailored for digestion is worth considering, especially if you've been on antibiotics in the past. Question 4, Doc, I take a zinc supplement now, but I've noticed more stomach upset. Is that connected? It can be. Some forms of zinc, especially when taken on an empty stomach, can irritate the gut lining. The fix is easy. Take zinc with food, and if issues continue, switch to a gentler form like zinc picolinate. Question 5, does age mean I just have to live with this? Not at all. Age changes the playing field, but it doesn't end the game. By chewing slowly, eating smaller portions, staying hydrated, and giving your gut time to adapt, most men can enjoy fiber-rich foods without the discomfort. It's not about perfection, it's about patience and practice. Robert tried these strategies. He began soaking beans before cooking, eating smaller portions, and pairing them with yogurt on occasion. Within weeks, his stomach settled. His wife noticed the difference too, not just less noise at the dinner table, but a calmer, more comfortable man beside her. And here's the bigger point. Digestive health isn't a side issue. When your gut is at peace, your energy rises, your mood steadies, and your confidence returns. Nothing kills a man's dignity faster than feeling like he's constantly battling his own body. But when digestion flows, life flows. So if you've been avoiding soy or beans out of fear, take heart. You don't need to give them up. You just need to treat them with respect, prepare them the right way, and let your gut catch up. Because what comes next isn't just about digestion. It's about unlocking two of the most powerful natural allies men have had for centuries, onions and garlic. And their story will surprise you. Charles was 71, a retired high school history teacher with the kind of voice that still carried authority even in casual conversation. He'd spent his career teaching young minds about battles, revolutions, and forgotten kings. But when he came to see me, he wasn't interested in the past. He was worried about the future, his own. "Doc," he said, adjusting his glasses, "I feel like my body's slowing down in ways I never signed up for. My mind wants to keep marching, but my legs and my heart, they are falling behind." When I asked him about his diet, he listed the usual suspects: meat, bread, coffee, the occasional glass of wine. But when I pressed further, he admitted he'd never been a fan of onions. "Too sharp, too messy," he chuckled. Yet the irony was, onions might have been the ally he needed most. Here's the truth: onions are not glamorous. They don't sit in the spotlight like blueberries or kale. They're humble, earthy, and often overlooked. But inside that layered bulb lies a secret. Onions are packed with compounds that boost nitric oxide, the molecule that relaxes blood vessels, improves circulation, and lays the groundwork for stronger erections and healthier hearts. For men over 60, that's not a detail. That's survival. Think of nitric oxide as the oil that keeps an engine running smooth. Without it, arteries stiffen, blood flow weakens, and vitality fades. Onions, along with garlic, are among nature's richest natural supporters of nitric oxide. In other words, what Charles had been avoiding on his plate might have been the very thing to keep him standing tall. I often tell men this: onions are not just food, they are medicine wearing an apron. They lower blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, and even carry antioxidants that slow the march of time on our cells. In traditional medicine across cultures, onions were seen as strength builders, not just flavor makers. Soldiers ate them before battle. Farmers relied on them for endurance, and yet here we are dismissing them as nothing more than seasoning. Charles raised a question that many of you might be thinking right now: "Doc, do I really have to eat them raw because I can't handle that?" The answer is no. While raw onions pack the strongest punch, cooked onions still deliver remarkable benefits. Caramelized in olive oil, tossed into soups, grilled beside a steak, the form matters less than the consistency. What your body needs is regular intake, not punishment. And let's be honest, onions are cheap, available everywhere, and easy to work into almost any dish. They don't ask for a special diet, they just ask to be included. Now, I know some of you listening have your doubts. Maybe you've avoided onions for years because of the smell, or maybe you've never thought of them as serious nutrition. But I'd ask you to reconsider. Because the real question isn't whether onions fit your taste, it's whether you can afford to ignore one of the simplest, most proven tools for keeping circulation alive in your 70s. Charles decided to give them a try. He started small, sautéed onions with eggs in the morning, a few slices of red onion in his salad, roasted onions alongside chicken. Weeks later, he told me with a grin, "Doc, I underestimated them. My blood pressure is down. My walks feel easier, and let's just say my wife has noticed something too." That's the power of a humble bulb. Quiet, steady, transformative. So let me turn the question back to you. How do onions show up in your kitchen? Do you toss them aside or do you let them work quietly for your health? Drop a comment and share. Your answer might help another man realize he's been skipping a treasure hidden in plain sight. Because onions aren't the end of the story. Their close cousin, garlic, carries its own legend and its own fire. And when men embrace garlic, the transformation goes even deeper. Edward was 74, a retired firefighter whose broad chest and steady eyes carried stories of smoke-filled rooms and lives pulled from the edge. He'd lived a life of urgency, charging into flames when others fled. But now, sitting across from me in the quiet of my office, his battle was different. "Doc," he said softly, "I spent my years protecting others. Now I feel like I can't protect myself. My blood pressure's climbing, my strength is fading, and well, let's just say intimacy doesn't come easy anymore. My wife says she loves me no matter what, but I want to feel like a man again." What Edward didn't know was that one of the oldest protectors in human history had been sitting in his kitchen drawer all along. Garlic. Garlic is not fancy. It isn't a superfood in glossy magazines. It doesn't carry the prestige of red wine or the novelty of exotic herbs. But for centuries, garlic has been medicine in its rawest, purest form. The ancient Egyptians fed it to laborers building the pyramids for strength and endurance. Roman soldiers chewed it before battle. And across generations, men have trusted garlic as a silent shield for the heart and blood. Here's why. Garlic contains compounds like allicin, which act as natural blood thinners, keeping circulation open and free. It lowers blood pressure, reduces cholesterol, and even boosts nitric oxide, the same molecule onions awaken. Together, these effects don't just protect a man's heart. They restore the very circulation that powers confidence, vitality, and yes, sexual health. Edward raised an eyebrow when I explained. "Doc, you're telling me something I've been tossing in the skillet all my life could have been saving me all along." Exactly. Garlic is like the old firefighter in the station. You don't notice him until the alarm rings. But when it does, he's the first to act. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Garlic, really? Isn't that just for flavor? Or maybe, won't it leave me smelling like I rolled in an Italian restaurant? Fair questions. But here's the truth. The health benefits far outweigh the temporary scent. And with a little strategy, like roasting garlic instead of eating it raw or pairing it with parsley, you can keep the breath manageable while still soaking in the benefits. As Edward gave it a try, he began adding roasted garlic cloves to his meals, slipping minced garlic into soups, and even trying garlic supplements on days he couldn't get enough from food. Within 3 months, his numbers told the story. Lower blood pressure, steadier cholesterol, better stamina. But the real change wasn't on paper, it was in his eyes. He told me one afternoon, "Doc, I feel lighter. My heart doesn't pound when I climb the stairs, and when I look at my wife, well, she notices the difference. She says I've got fire in me again." That's garlic at work, not glamorous, not showy, but dependable, protective, and quietly powerful. And here's where I want to turn to you. How often does garlic show up in your meals? Is it just a seasoning, or do you let it be the ally it was always meant to be? Drop a comment. Tell me your favorite way to use garlic, roasted, sautéed, or raw. You might inspire another man to give it a chance. Because garlic is more than flavor. It's tradition, it's protection, it's resilience bottled into a clove. And for men over 60, it can be the difference between decline and revival. Edward is proof. A man who once saved lives with a hose and helmet found that a humble clove of garlic could save his own. And as we prepare to close this journey, we'll bring everything together, the lessons, the stories, the science, and the hope. Because the final word isn't about food alone. It's about the men listening right now and the life that still waits for them. If you've made it this far, I want to pause and say something important. You are the kind of man who refuses to surrender. You are not content with decline. You still believe there is more life to be lived, more strength to be claimed, more love to be given and received. That in itself sets you apart. We've traveled a long road together in this conversation. We began with the spark of vitamin D, the energy of B12, the balance of magnesium, the protection of vitamin E. We uncovered zinc, the foundation, and learned the subtle truth about soy and eggs. We faced the honest challenges of digestion, and then we leaned into the ancient allies of onions and garlic. Each step, each nutrient, each story was not about science alone. It was about you, your future, your vitality, your dignity as a man. Because here's the truth. After 60, no one is coming to hand you back your youth. It will not return on its own. But what you can reclaim is presence, circulation, energy, intimacy. You can rebuild not to be 20 again, but to be the strongest version of who you are right now. Men like Robert, Charles, Edward, ordinary men with ordinary kitchens proved it's possible. With small, consistent choices, they found themselves walking taller, sleeping deeper, loving stronger. That same possibility is open to you. But here's where it becomes real. This isn't just information. It's an invitation. If you found yourself nodding at any point, if something here sparked a thought, then don't keep it to yourself. Click that like button, and let me be clear, when you do, I don't just see it as a number on a screen. I see it as a handshake, a man-to-man acknowledgement that you're still in this fight, and for that I want to bless you. May the days ahead bring you steadier strength in your body. May your evenings carry more peace and intimacy in your home. And may your spirit remain unbroken, alive with the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth. That is what I wish for every one of you who presses that button, not just support for this channel, but a small declaration that you refuse to fade quietly. Now I also want to hear from you. Which part of this journey spoke the loudest? Was it the reminder about zinc, the lesson about soy and eggs, the ancient truth of onions and garlic? Drop a comment and tell me. Your words might be the spark that lights another man's path. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not because it's trendy, but because this conversation isn't finished. There is more to uncover, more stories to tell, more truths that can change the way men over 60 live, love, and lead. Hit that button, join this community, and let's walk this road together. If you feel this message could help a brother, a friend, or even your own son, share it. Don't keep knowledge locked away. Be the man who passes on wisdom the way men have done for generations. So here we stand. At the close of this chapter, the nutrients, the foods, the stories, they're just tools. The real engine of change is you. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are a man still capable of strength, intimacy, and presence. Take this knowledge, carry it into your kitchen, your daily choices, your relationships, and let it serve as a reminder that your story is still unfolding. I'll leave you with this. Every day you rise, you're given another chance to live fully, to love deeply, and to honor the body that has carried you this far. Don't waste it. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and remember, you're never too old to reclaim the fire that was always yours.